Well, hello. As we're getting into Thanksgiving, we're getting excited. It's all about the side dishes today, and this is one of my favorites. It is a Chipotle sweet potato, but it isn't just Chipotle sweet potato. It is a shingled sweet potato, and it has a butter with Chipotle puree, citrus, and thyme, and it's put together and put on top of these potatoes. And let me tell you something, it is one of the best sweet potato dishes, and it is not overburdened. I know you're gonna say it. Caleb, sweet potato casserole, give me my marshmallows. You will forget all about the marshmallows when you have this. You don't need them, I promise. So to start, we're gonna start with the butter that goes on top, which is a Chipotle butter. So I have some butter in here, and we're gonna put some Chipotle puree. Now what I do is, I buy cans of Chipotles. You've probably seen them. They're wonderful. They're really just jalapenos that are smoked and then in adobo. And I like to put them and I blend them with my immersion blender or a blender and keep them in the fridge, and then you can use a little bit at a time. So I'm putting that puree, which is that can blended together, right in there with the butter. Gonna add now some citrus. So I have a little bit of orange juice that I already juiced, and then I'm gonna take some lime juice. Now, the thing is, lime, orange, Chipotle, and especially when you add that sweet potato too, there's something about it that just plays so well together. So I really like to add that up. There's something too about the smokiness of the Chipotle that needs to kind of be woken up with some citrus. I'm gonna add the citrus right in there. Doesn't look pretty now, but just wait till it all melts together. Of course, the maple syrup. One, you wanna offset, sweet potatoes are obviously really sweet, but there's something when you add a little bit more of that maple syrup that really just brings out their sweetness. I don't want them cloyingly sweet, I just want them slightly sweet. You're gonna take some thyme, just strip the leaves off of the stem. Thyme is one of those that obviously, it's Thanksgiving, so we're used to seeing thyme, but it surprisingly plays really well with some strong flavors like the citrus and the Chipotle. I think it really kind of wakes it up, and you get just that hint of the thyme in there that, I love. So I'm stripping the leaves off, put them in there. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. Salt's important. You wanna make sure they're flavored well. And we're gonna take this to the stove, let it melt together. And while it's doing that, I'm gonna make sure that we have all of our sweet potatoes going. So we're gonna let that melt and we'll get the sweet potatoes going. Thanksgiving to me is also about the presentation, not just the flavor, and this dish is packing both. I love the shingle kind of beautiful look we're gonna give this. It's unique for sweet potatoes. Now I scrubbed them, I'm leaving the skins on. You know my thing with peels. They're great, I love them, I want them. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting it back, cutting the end off just to make sure it's even so I can get kind of about the same size. Now I'm not gonna throw all these butts and ends out. I will just roast them for myself and eat them. Instead what I'm doing is cutting all these equal slices about, because we want this to cook, in about the same length for the whole dish. So we obviously need to cut them somewhat the same. Now you could use a mandolin, but you can see I'm cutting it kind of slightly thicker than certain mandolins would be. So what I'm doing is I am just making sure to get these in there, and what we'll do is we'll just keep cutting until we have it full. And so as you can see, I cut the end off, check for any abrasions, any bad spots, bruises, things like that. But as we're doing it, you kind of just want to be careful and make sure you're getting those nice, even cuts, which you can see. Now already, I can tell you, what I'm smelling is that wonderful butter mixture, which I love. If you, once you smell it, I think you're gonna see that okay, this is worth it. So I'm gonna put a few more potato pieces on there, cut them up, then we're gonna pour the butter over the top, and that's all it is. It's actually super simple. So this really was cooking, and you can see that because it was bubbling all over, which that butter, that Chipotle, the citrus, the maple, I smell it all. So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna pour it over. Kind of do it slowly because I wanna make sure I get some over all of it. Because you want this isn't just flavoring, it's also gonna help it caramelize. That maple syrup in there adds a good browning effect when it's in the oven, when it's roasting. What I like about this dish is, it's simple. You don't have to do a mashed potato. There's no work to it other than you get it ready. So you can get this ready kind of the morning of. Then you can roast it and bake it all later on in the day. Look at that color already that you can just tell from that butter is glistening over these potatoes. And honestly, what I like is, not that they're not a light potato, don't get me wrong, you have the butter, but they're lighter than a heavy sweet potato casserole, and yet they have a much higher flavor punch, which is what I love. So I'm gonna put this in the oven. We're gonna roast it till they're tender. Already smells amazing. Then we're gonna eat. I pulled the potatoes out of the oven when they were done. You just want to make sure they're tender, and you can use a knife, you could use a fork. Literally, it's just like roasting them, making sure that they have pretty easy resistance. Don't want them to be mushy. But what I love is the presentation is super beautiful, and it took really no time. It was just the slicing and putting them in there nicely. And now it's ready to go. Now, this is my favorite part. We're of course gonna have to try them. And what I love is at the bottom, some of that extra butter kind of pools. I mean, look at those, they're beautiful. When you take more out, you can kind of take some of that butter and just drizzle it over the top. I'm excited for these. I love sweet potatoes in general, and I love how they can kind of be a canvas for, I don't know, unique flavors. I'm gonna take some, it's still hot, but. Ooh, and just a little bit of that spice at the end. What I love is, the centers are almost like a mashed potato consistency. They're soft, they're beautiful, they're well textured, but you get a little bit of that hint of the smoky spice, and then the great texture of the potato on the outside, which is slightly roasted. That thyme almost like disappears, but you get it melded with all the other flavors. And the butter just gives it that richness. These are delicious. They're a great side dish because they are quick and easy to put together, and it looks like a great presentation. That's what matters. So I hope you share this video around because yes, that helps me immensely, but it helps everyone see Thanksgiving can be doable, it can be easy, but it also can be unique and different, and that's what this is all about. Gather your family together, enjoy some great food, be thankful, love each other. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for this recipe and all my other recipes. It is all Thanksgiving on there, and you can find anything you need for the day. And until next time, I hope you have someone to share it with because that's the whole point. So make some good food and enjoy it.